guide service, Northwoods Guide. Taylor, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself, where you guide, all the things. We've got a cat already. God,
Perfect. And that's the one
That's the one you really like, Taylor.
basement where it belongs. Um, well, I'm Taylor Flannery. I run Musky Guarantee Guide Service out of northern Wisconsin, Milas, Langlade, Forest County, that area. I hit 50 plus different lakes throughout the season. Definitely a lot of water to cover, but I've done my homework, and that's what I like to do is break down new water, and always chasing a bite. So that's just little bit about my background, but my first year full time last season. Otherwise, I had guided just a part time before that, and last year was great, absolutely incredible. Met a lot of great people, put a lot of fish in the net, and definitely saw a lot of fish get off, which that was hard. But overall, it was a really good year. Had a great time with everybody. So
Awesome, dude. Victor says hi, and so does Connor. What's up, guys? Appreciate you joining. Connor, if you ever decide that you want to do this, I would love to have you on. You have a really interesting perspective and tons of big fish mojo. So, anyway, Taylor, like, what are your thoughts on first year as a guide? Like, everyone talks about wanting to guide. I've done a little bit of it myself. I don't know how you guys do that, like, day in and day out. I enjoy what little I do, but I could see how it could wear on you pretty quickly. So, thoughts on year one?
well, honestly, it's great. First off, absolutely love it. I would not trade it for anything. But people, they jump into, hey, I want to be a fishing guide, and think that it's all fun and games and playing on the water and being able to fish every day. That's not it. You're not out there for yourself at all. You're out there for your clients. It's their trip, not yours. Definitely. I mean, you got days you're waking up at 3 in the morning to, I cover a wide range, a lot of area. So you're waking up at 3 in the morning to go and meet somebody at daybreak, an hour and a half away or whatever, and then you fish a full 10 to 12 hour day, and you got to come back. You tidy the boat up, you clean it up, and you get ready for the next one the next day. It's not it's long hours. It's great water. It's great being outside in the elements and stuff, but it can be tiring, especially if you have family at home, little kids, that kind of thing. You get a little bit of time away from them, which they so um, it's hard, but if you have a good support system at home, whatever, you're able to do it. But definitely live for the moments when people catch their first muskie, biggest muskie. They're shaking. Eyes are bright, excited, and have time. I mean, it's all worth it. It doesn't matter what you have to do or the work you put into it, the time you scouting out water, whatever. When you get that feel from somebody and you're a part of that memory, that's worth it. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's like the thing that people don't really think about, whether you're fun fishing or whether you're guiding, whatever you're doing is like the prep time before and then the put away time after. Like, it depending on your situation and how efficient you are. I mean, you're looking at adding, another hour probably at least onto your trip just from doing that, and it's just like all of these random compound things. And like a lot of us here in Iowa, some of us are really fortunate to be close to musky water. Some of us are not so fortunate to be close to musky water, but like that that time traveling is definitely part of it. I wish time travel were a thing because then it wouldn't be as much of a thing. But yeah, I know, like, for example, the Ridgeways. Like, there's times where those guys are getting up at ungodly hours to be there at daybreak, and I don't know how they do it. I do it sometimes, but not as often as they do. So props to them.
Yeah,
I got my lucky happy hooker glass tonight. So
there you go.
those of you who know, or yeah, if you know, you know. That's what I meant to say. Connor says game anytime. All right, Connor, I'm gonna have you on to talk Canadian slash Minnesota slash big fish, all that stuff. I swear to God, Connor, if you come on here and all you say is just be on the water the entire time, it's not gonna cut it. um, all right, so you were talking about a bunch of happenings this season, making it all worth it. So, do you have like a most memorable catch from guiding this season so far,
Yeah, I would say
or this past season, not this season? This season hasn't really started for you guys.
yeah, this past season, I had a young kid out in the boat. He was a 8-year-old kid and his dad, and the he was he was really wanting to rip a didn't I give him a bucktail spinner bait, whatever, or phantom. He tried ripping that and just really aggressive, really snapping that thing. And he was doing an awesome job, as far as casting and all that for, the young man he was. And um, I gave him a little 6 inch, I believe it was a big game twitch bait. And he cast that thing out and he's ripping it around and snapping it and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, I probably couldn't have got it to run, and he had a 40 incher come up and just try to annihilate it at the boat. He like pulls his bait out of the water and he steps back and he's like, "You expect me to catch that thing?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I do." uh, but so that right before the moon peak for that midday moon peak, and we ended up coming right back around and went back on that fish again, and the kid it did the same exact thing. The kid came up to the boat, fish was hot on it, and he just pulls it out of the water and he was like, "Oh, I forgot to do a figure eight," because we had talked about it. This is what you need to do and stuff. And um, we ended up coming back again on that fish, never saw it, and then went in. We inside it out, that weed line, and we ended up catching it. And the kid, he cranks that thing in, and he's just giving her and got it in the net, and he's got a smile, like, even he's shaking. It was incredible, but just the whole story and actually hunting a muskie. I mean, that was the one that we set
Mhm.
out for right there, and that was pretty cool. I got a kick out of that. So
That's totally awesome. That's such a great story. um, Brady says, "What's up?" He's excited to meet you next weekend. Bam Bam himself.
yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about his baits, man. He's got the musky world on lock right now.
That
My
is
buddy
no
Spire.
joke. I thought I was doing good showcasing him in a few of my videos, and then like this week there was like 3 of them that dropped that had his baits in it. So props to him for putting out a product that is like very much in demand. So that's really cool stuff. Hopefully there'll be plenty of fish caught on camera on that this year too. Yeah. I had kind of a similar situation. Oh, sorry, dude. Go ahead.
That thing's gonna get a workout this year. Especially he's coming into Wisconsin. I know the Wisconsin guy, especially the smaller one he makes. Man, he's gonna sell out of that thing. There's gonna be a lot of them things flying around up here.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if any of those juniors make it past day 1 up there, because I think that there's a lot of guys there's a lot of guys that run programs similar to me on some of those deeper clears bodies of water, and, originally when I saw his baits, I was like, "Sandgrass time." That's when that's gonna be huge, and I know that anyone who's seen his baits and fishes those types of patterns is thinking the exact same thing as me, and, or, you know, there's just nothing out there that's gonna be doing the same thing, and getting down that deep. I mean, you can wait bulldogs and deuces to get them that deep, but just the action is different. From what little chance I had to run them this fall, because I didn't think I think I got my first ones maybe in November, so I got a chance to run them a little bit, but not what they deserved. And it's just a really unique action. It's a lot of head down. It's very similar to a dying dog, kind of, but not a dying dog, kind of. It's definitely its own thing, but it's got a really good kind of action and like the way that it bends and stuff in the water is really cool, and those tails are always kicking down there. I was jigging one a little bit this fall when we were around some fish, but I was kind of nervous because I was like, I've only got like two of these things, and the last thing I want to do is like hook this on a sunken log 22 foot down and have no prayers of getting it back. So I didn't jig it for very long.
Have you thrown the shallow one or just the deep?
Um, it was a shallow one that I put. I think it was his ounce and a half on or 2 ounce on the head of it. Basically, it's the shallow one, but I weighted it down knowing that I was going to be chucking it in the fall and wanted it down in that like 8 to 10 foot range, which it had no problem getting down there. Like if you let it get down there more, it'll it'll go down further for sure.
Yeah, that's I definitely have some spots picked out that I'm going to be throwing that thing around. So fully
There's a
expect to.
there's a couple
Uh,
we fished on one of those lakes where I can think where it would be really good. Some of those deeper breaks and mid lake structure stuff like that, or some of your rock stuff that
yeah,
that we fish. That's kind of off. It's not. I don't know. It's kind of like some of those spines and stuff that aren't like, how do I want to say it? It's not like mid lake structure, but it's like point off of a point kind of thing, and it's not super obvious.
yeah,
But yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about. So they'll work
I
there.
know. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
All right. So Taylor, you gave me your most memorable guide moment. Do you have a most memorable fail to share? And our day does not count because we only got a 28 inch or whatever that day. It didn't
still
quite
a
make a
must
video.
say. So you say that, and I instantly think of. I mean, I had a guy lose an absolute mega. They came over actually from Minnesota and said that they had been with other guides and that it just didn't work out. They never saw fish, never caught fish, and I said, well, we're going to give it our best shot. But they said that they would rather target a big fish over numbers of fish or whatever. I said, hey,
Sure.
let's do it. I'm all about it. I love chasing big fish, and um, we went to a lake that. I knew, we weren't going to see a lot of fish, but if we did see one, it was probably going to be, 45 plus. And the guy was casting over like a little, I don't know, 7 foot cabbage with like 20 foot of water on the outside of it, and he definitely got lit up. He could see it from 15 feet out, just a big submarine coming up behind I believe it was an IC-10 bucktail, and he came in. He's like, look at the size of that freaking thing. Well, then he did like a really narrow figure eight, and the fish just kind of slow petered off. You know how they do, and
Ugh.
he's like, oh no, did you see that? And I'm like, slam it back down there. So he puts it back in the water, and I said, figure eight. So he went around. I said, just make big ovals. I said, go as wide as you possibly can, and he went out, and I said, wider. So then he leaned way out. And as soon as he leaned way out, he got in that outside turn. That fish came back just wide open mouth and just crushed that bait. And he set the hook. And the guy didn't have a lot of experience, with big fish and whatnot. And he just, I mean, held on to it. And the fish is right at both sides. I'm diving for the net. The fish is just thrashing, white
Oh
waters
no.
everywhere. Didn't give the fish any play whatsoever, and it ends up popping off. But oh, Connor says, how big was it? I would easily. I don't say a lot of fish are 50, being that we're in northern Wisconsin. But this one was all of 51, 52 inches.
Oh
It was
my
a tank,
god.
and it was those that, I
Oh
mean, I can see it
no.
picture perfect. I could replay that for you right to this day. But that was heartbreak.
That's rough, dude. That's a rough one.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
and I
that was the
mean,
one I was here for.
yeah, I mean, you've tangled with a few northern Wisco fish that size, so like if you're saying it's that big, I believe you. And
Yeah,
we're gonna get joined by another cat here soon. Oh, maybe not. Ah, that's a rough one. I don't really have any. Well, Connor and I had some heartbreak together. That was my
yeah,
big
too.
moment. What's that?
Yeah, it's good times too.
Oh yeah, we definitely did. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I think the universe kind of equalized. There's kind of the I don't know. It's kind of the theme of the season. Like there was some fish that I caught that I shouldn't have, and then there were some fish that I had like dead to rights that just like inexplicably got off. Like that one with Connor. I mean, the whole angry dragon was in its mouth. It'll be in a video here. I don't know, a few weeks, but whole angry dragon in the mouth. Set the hook. The hook set wasn't even that bad. You know, it was just kind of one of those deals where I think reviewing the footage like frame by frame, it looked like the angry dragon kind of got like balled up on itself. So then when I set the hook, like it just didn't quite. I don't know. It just didn't find the soft part. So it was like two head shakes and the fish was gone. And yeah, it was tough. That was a good one. I don't think it was over 50, but it was like 47 to probably 50. Like it was just a big bucket mouth thing. But and then I had another one in the Northwoods. Probably the biggest bite I had. I was on Adam's top line, the Dipstick XL, and I was like bringing it up, and I was just about to go in the figure eight, and I was like letting it death rise. Um, yeah, Connor says it was very long. It was very long. It was not like typically thick for as like the fish on that lake are pretty thick. Usually that one was not stereotypically thick. It was kind of skinny, which was strange, I think. But compared to the ones like Connor was catching, you'll see him in those videos. Like he was catching these freaking just like I don't know these railroad tie fish and yeah. Anyway, the other one, so that was like the biggest bite I had in the Northwoods was on that Dipstick XL, and it was just like doing the death pause right by the boat, and I don't know what it was. It was probably right around 44-ish, 44-ish, 45-ish, just like it's on the death pause, and this thing just comes up and just and I see it and everything's perfect, get an awesome hook set, and I'm like trying to give Callie's cousin time to grab the net, and it's just like I'm trying to thumb it and give it line. I'm like, okay, we got this one, no big deal. There's no way this thing comes off. And then I'm like giving it line and I like engage the reel and I get like one cranking and there's just like nothing there. So I don't know what happened. It never lost tension. It never did anything weird, you know. It just popped off. So, I don't know. That one was a bummer. That was probably the biggest fish, we had a shot at this year in Hayward, but it's okay. It
Yeah.
happens.
Sometimes it's you you can't stick your hand into a tackle box without pulling up five baits with hooks on your hands and whatnot. But somehow a fish can chomp a bait and doesn't catch hooks or just barely or whatever, and they just pop and just it's part of it, but it's not
Mhm.
fun.
No. I would be curious to know what the hydrodynamics are on that thing. I'm sure there's gotta be some science on it somewhere, but yeah, it's frustrating when it happens because like in the bucktail situation you were talking about, I mean, the thing is literally just wire and hooks. So, like, how that fish doesn't stay pinned when it smokes it at the boat is just it's one of those things where it's just like, "How?" I had one this fall too that was just an absolute ridiculous heartbreak. Like, the thing just comes up just inhales the blade with no name, like, basically, like, eats that thing to the leader. I see it happen in front of me, and I just put the screws to it, and the gears on my reel slip. So this reel is, like, turning backwards faster than the frame rate of my camera can keep up with it because I, like, watched it back in slow-mo. The thing is, like, spinning faster than, like, 60 frames a second can keep up with it. So, I mean, I go from this fish being just absolutely smoke dead to rights to like 20 to 30 feet of slack, like instantly. And it doesn't work. Like when you have a fish that's like a mid 40s fish come up and smoke it, and it's got, a half a second to just sit there and shake its head, you're hosed. There's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
one's
And
that
that's
one still bugs me. I'm still mad about that one.
I had one had it on video last year. It ate a chaos medusa right at my feet, and I felt the thump, and I seen the fish, and I set the hook, and the bait came flying out of the water. I didn't get anything into the fish, and I'm like, how is that possible? Well, then you rewatch the film, the fish never even closed its mouth. It
Mhm.
inhaled bait and just it like soft mouthed it and just opened its mouth again. That bait came flying right out of there. It's like how many times does that happen? And it
That's
sucks.
crazy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember seeing that video. That was a tough one. That's like that one from this spring, that we had together where that one came up in the 8 and smoked your SRJ, and it just happened to, like, hit it as it was rolling, so its whole mouth got just the backside of the bait, so then when you set the hook, you just there was no hooks anywhere close to the fish, you just basically wedged the bait out like, back out of its mouth, and it's like, that's just the worst, crappiest luck that you could ever have with something like that.
And that would have been an
Oh,
awesome
yeah.
little run. Let that fish go around like 6 times, something like
I
that.
It was around the boat forever. I can't believe you actually got it to eat.
Iowa.
Uh, well, we'll have a shot to do it again, here, hopefully in the very near future, which would be great.
Oh yeah,
Speaking of
I'm
which, any big plans or big trips for this season? I know that, like, the guiding thing kinda keeps you tied down a little bit to northern Wisconsin, but what have you got planned?
I'm thinking. Well, I got coming down by you or whatnot, trying to hit that. Whatever, just after spawn. But
Mhm.
um, I'll probably be down either Indiana, otherwise other parts in that area. But I want to hit that for about a week. That's about all I can get away with. Mama at home and the kids. So she's about over single mom summer. But yeah, that's about it. I would like to get down south later in the year. There's a guy who fishes down there. It's Colin Slick. Brian
Oh, yeah.
fished with him, but he's a great dude. I talked to him at the show last year, and we kind of wanted to do something, but never really worked out for my schedule. His thing, but definitely I'll see him in Wausau, I believe, but we'll try to make a plan to actually get in the boat. That looked like a heck of a lot of fun down there, chasing muskies in December. So,
No kidding. That's, yeah, he had a heck of a program running this winter, whether it was the muskies or the trout and salmon stuff that he does, like, he's got some stuff figured out, and it looks like he just has fun all the time, like, I'm jealous of the trout and salmon thing because that would be a lot of fun to break up the monotony of the winter in a hurry. And like that can't be that can't like some of the stuff that he fishes can't be super far south of you. Like what? Probably like a 2 hour drive, 2.5 hour drive.
probably 3 hours, something like
Dang,
that. But we go down there. We
Wisconsin's
do a lot of the
Wisconsin's a
tradition.
big state.
Yeah, everything's 2 hours from us. Just chalk it up as that. But
Fair enough.
well, yeah. Hey, come over and catch some muskies.
Yeah, I'm like an hour and 50 minutes from you. No big deal.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, so hopes and dreams for 24 with the guiding season. Anything that you really hope to accomplish? Any huge goals, or just kind of try and keep the ball rolling?
That's honestly, I don't really set goals. If you're on the water, you're fishing and you're fishing, good stuff, and you're gonna come across fish. Some seasons, go better than others. Some seasons are, extraordinary, whatever. But if you don't set goals, you don't get disappointed. But for the most part, I I have a good time on the water. As long as clients are having fun and seeing fish and having good time, that's what it's all about. But I would like to get more fishing on film just for the advertising aspect of it, or looking back at stuff and even learning myself. If I think that I had a fish go on and I didn't do what I should have done, or just to look back on it and kind of hindsight's 2020, and maybe I should have did this or that, and then the next time around you could try that. So that's a great learning tool, and I just don't utilize that as much as I should. I mean, it's out. I got all the cameras to do it. I just don't.
I will say it's just another element of the like put away things and add time to the day. Like if you're on a good bite or whatever, and you get a bunch of stuff captured, it takes like there'd be times when we were in Canada or in Minnesota. Minnesota was tougher than Canada. Like we actually had pretty decent internet, and like the computers and stuff were able to keep up there, and like charging things was somewhat more efficient there. But like where we're staying in Minnesota, it's the power is not it's fine, but it's not great, and, like, there's no internet or anything like that, so, the time that it takes to dump that footage, rip that footage, and get it where it needs to go, it just adds time to everything, on the day after you fished all day and you're tired and the sun is, like, wore on you. So, yeah, I totally get it. I understand why someone in your position would not necessarily feel all that, motivated by the videography, thing,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I get it.
it's it's like it's got bad luck. I mean, I could think that I got a 2 hour window and I'm gonna smash them during that time. And I'll wear a GoPro or whatnot and won't see a fish. And then I'll be like, well, forget this thing. I'll put it down and then I catch one like 3 casts later. So that's kind of how the camp goes for me. So um,
See, the big brain moves is you just jinx yourself all the time like me, and then, like, eventually either something happens or the blind squirrel finds an acorn, whatever the case may be.
yeah,
So, James, down here said, "Any new baits you're excited to use," which is great because I was gonna ask you, what the best baits of the season are before I ask you what ones you're most excited for, which we kind of covered at least one of those to begin with, but, like, um, best baits last year, which give me your perspective on guiding too, because like from the time that I have guided, talked to people, or had people in my boat, there's definitely some perspective there because not always the best bait for the time is the best bait for the situation based on the client. So anyway, I'll let you break all that down, but you talk to me about that.
so well we'll start off with with clients. Um, it's definitely I would say baits that you want to give clients that are new to fishing are your twitch baits or rubber or swim baits, spinner baits. They're just baits that you can't work wrong. Top water baits are great. They can see them happen and stuff, but there's so many times that a fish will blow up on a top water bait and they set the hook right when they see the fish come out and then they don't get the fish. But rubber baits, I mean, heck, you could straight reel a Medusa and still catch fish on them. But you can work them slow, you can twitch them fast, you can rip them through stuff, you can rip them over stuff. They're still gonna get a look from a fish. Same with twitch baits or that kind of thing. Um, those are definitely good client baits. Spinner baits that drop tine tackle growler spinner bait that put a lot of fish in that last year. Uh,
Yeah.
thing. Hey, oh, but yeah, uh, that was a good bait, and it's something that somebody that's not accustomed to throwing the big, they can throw it all day long and not complain about it
Hmm.
versus all day. So that's same with the swim baits too. You can reel them, you can rip them, you can do whatever, and you're gonna see fish on them. So those are all baits that for everyone, I guess. For me personally, I throw a lot of like bugs. Chaos Medusas, the mid deuces are great for me. I mean, for everyone, I think. But um, the Suics are a staple. They catch a lot of Phantom gliders. I have this one sitting next to me, but this is I gave you one of these to try out down there, but this is a
Yeah.
um,
It's going to be in a
Conquest.
video in like a week.
What, what's
It's
that?
the glide you gave me is going to be in a video in like a week
Oh
for
yeah,
for spring baits. I'm pumped for.
yes, this one is definitely a good lures glitch pedigree, but um, that thing from the time I took it out of the mailbox, it was probably about 25 minutes, and I had a fish in the net. That's with about 15 minutes of drive time. So that one,
Nice.
that
Wait, are you talking the one that you gave me? Or are you
no,
talking
that
that one? Okay, I was gonna
oh,
say.
it's the same bait, just different
Yeah.
different color. Yeah, you had like an orange. orange and gold, something or another, right? Is what I
Yeah, it's
yeah.
kind of like a fireball color. It's gonna be awesome. I'm
Yeah,
excited to throw it.
that one's but
Sorry, I was making some notes so I don't forget a couple of things. So, like, I was gonna second you on this the swim baits and spinner baits thing. Like, if I've got someone who's inexperienced in my boat, like the swim bait is something I lean on hard, whether it's Poseidon Innovations, whatever. It's just like there's no wrong way to work a swim bait, and like they get bit all the time. I've had probably more first muskies on swim baits in my boat than any other bait. Um, they just they just get the job done, and like the spinner bait thing is another great one too because, um, like I guess like when I'm fishing with family in northern Wisconsin, like if they're not like if that growler's not catching or muskies, like it's feeding us at night because we're catching pike with it or catching bait with it. That's also not a bad thing either. So yeah, I just those baits are like awesome to work. The growlers are great too. Like for the northern Wisconsin stuff in the middle of the summer, something that's a little different. That profile is like perfect for those fish. I was gonna say, sorry, I'm making another note because there's something else I want to talk about that I know we have talked about before, but I feel like people um, would appreciate that as well. But okay, so the other question that I wrote down that I want to ask you before I forget is so in my experience guiding at times, there's times where like you have a bait or a technique that is working and it's very clearly working, but like your clients don't necessarily possess um, the technique or skill set to do that. Like what do you do in that situation? Like the situation that happened to me this fall is I had some clients and like it was very clear that the day we were out there, the fish were keying in on rubber, and it wasn't like we're just slow pulling it. I'm like ripping deuces as hard as I can, kind of like keying in on rubber. So that put me in kind of a sticky wicket on that day. But I'm curious from your perspective, when those types of things happen, what do you do to make sure people are on fish or staying on fish?
well, to be honest with you, you really do work with people. You know, if they're not doing how you're doing, this is what's going to get you bit. Even like so, usually my trips I start off with like an hour of just testing, figure eighting. This is what you should expect. This is how I'm working this bait. This is how I'm working that bait. If they can't do it or aren't really doing it how I feel like they should be getting bit, I'll stop the boat and say, hey, we're gonna practice this a little bit. You know, it's better to take 10 casts well versus 100 casts not well. Is
Hmm.
my kind of perspective. So if
It's
you
a fair
have
point.
something where eat in, you know, this is the only bite that you're on, they need to be doing it. And even if say if they can't snap and rip, that aggressive hop that you're doing with those dogs or deuces or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
um, it's take a break. I'm not if you're going to be out for 10 hours on the water, you pick your times, you pick your wind switches, your weather changes, clouds come in, your moon phases, the peaks. You pick those times and you pick your best spots during those times. And you tell them, hey, I need a solid hour on you, and you're going to have some action. That
Hmm.
that's kind of what you do. Take a break when that's done. And a lot of times people understand, this is the time to make hay, and they give you good effort. I mean, they're the ones
Hmm.
that want to be for is to learn those techniques and to try to see what they could do differently in the boat or on their own. So you can't just skip over and say, well, here's a bucktail. Even though you don't think that that's going to be the ticket that day, you can't just throw them a bucktail and say, there you go, you're out of my hair. That's not
Hmm.
what being a guy. So I'm not saying that I'm in the boat harping on somebody that they're not doing it right, but I'm gonna work with them and I'm gonna try to get it up to what I think is gonna catch a fish. So part of the job.
Yeah, that's probably a point where I could grow more, just because like, in those situations, I kind of go a different route where I'm thinking of things that can kind of fill a different niche in, like, those situations. So, for example, you know, um, like that day that the rubber was working, I was trying other things like, having one of the older guy, I was having him chuck a spinner bait or a boiler maker, something that's going to be like going slow over those weeds. But again, if they're wanting to pull pods, it's not easy, but it's tough too when sometimes those guys don't necessarily have the skill set to just jump right into that. And a 10-hour day, that's great, to take that time, but like I think, I don't know if I've ever booked a full day, maybe one, but, like, again, the one day that was happening, it was like, it was a half day, and, the time is of the essence, and it's tough to kind of figure out in that short of time, like, "Hey, we're gonna spend a half hour of your of your, 4 and a half, 5 hours, learning how to do this right." So I don't know. I don't know what's right to do in that situation. It was tough, and that was just a tough day. But at the same time, I was like honest with the guys that I was out. I was like, hey, we're gonna get one or two shots today, and you gotta be ready when it happens, and that's what's gonna happen. And we got one shot, and it didn't work out. I guess technically two. One guy, I saw one come in late on his spinnerbait on my down imaging, but like he was it wouldn't have mattered. The fish was so far back that, like, he was halfway through his second or his next cast before I even saw that fish, but,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
here's kind of like, so something that I've learned, being on the water with clients and whatnot. It's not always about catching the fish or catching the biggest fish. Sometimes people come with you just to have the knowledge and to ask questions and see how you do things. And that's part of it is, if you're on a bite that you think you're going to be on, they want to know what you're doing to get that bit, to get bid. And like I've had a guy, he booked a half day trip, 5 6 hours on the water, and we literally sat in the boat with spot lock on for 3.5 hours of his trip, and he just asked questions. He said, "This is what I want out of this trip." I said, "Well, let's do it." So I mean, it was a new moon too. It was beautiful out, and I'm like at the bit, but that's what the guy wanted. He wanted the knowledge. He wanted to see the graphs. He wanted to see the auto chart. He wanted to see what I'm looking at, how I'm breaking down water. Um, just kind of an overall, what am I doing wrong on the water that I'm seeing fish, not catching fish, that sort of thing. So um, it just so happened that we only had 45 minutes to fish at the end of the day, and he actually ended up catching one on a growler spinner bait, but it worked out perfectly. He's like, honestly, without the fish, I would have been more than happy just talking with you, and the knowledge that you get, that was worth every little bit of it. So sometimes it's not always about worrying about being on fish and sticking 3 fish a day. Some people understand that one day taken to gather information and process is worth a lifetime. Where they can go and do it on their own. So
Yeah, totally. I think probably one of the most helpful pieces of advice you ever gave me in those situations is it's just like, it's not your day, it's their day. And like, you need to figure out what they want to get out of their day. Cause I probably the worst day that I had this year taking guys out was, we didn't see a fish, catch a fish, whatever. But I don't think like he was super upset by that because I feel like he learned some things and I feel like he learned how I like to break down water that time of year. So I don't think it was a total loss for him. I just felt bad because it was like one of the like 5 times. Like I've got more fingers than times I've been to that lake than and not seen a fish, caught a fish, whatever. But it's just part of the deal. I mean, it's musky fishing.
yeah.
Um. So we kind of touched on this. What were some of your best baits this season?
Um, Well, I'm a lot of bulldogs and medusas. That's a big part of my game. The Phantom Glider, that's my early season, and then that Glitch Pedigree, that was a good one as well. Suics and SRJs, they're awesome. You can't hardly beat that. I throw a lot more jerk baits and rubber than I do, uh, bucktails or things like that. But that growler was a great one. I substituted, the front of the boat a lot of times was throwing that growler spinner bait instead of the inline bucktails, just for the fact that there's so many people throwing bucktails out there that it's just
Totally.
a little different, and you can kind of slow roll that spinner bait, get it right into the weeds, and you get it on one, you rip it off a bit, and it's definitely a little different presentation with a blade than what your bucktails are, and surprisingly, there's not that many people throwing spinner baits around, so that
Yeah.
was a good. Um, but yeah, that's I don't really get into too many of the fancy high priced baits anymore. I've come to learn that it's a lot of hoopla and whatnot for no reason, but um, it's show season, right?
I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree with you on that one. It depends on the bait because some of those tools are pretty serious. Like Adams, top line baits like those Dipstick XLs do something different. And they're not easy to get your hands on, and they're not cheap, but they're different. Um,
Well, it's getting down into us into the strike zone.
Yeah, and it's just offering up something different. How many Suics do those fish see? How many, bulldogs do those fish see? And you've got something that's like this weird twitch profile for these fish that's right down in the zone for them. And, it's like, whoa, we don't see this stuff at 10 feet. Like, what the heck is this thing down here? So, yeah, I don't know. It depends on the thing, and I'd imagine your perspective is a little bit different. Like the last thing that you want is like someone, busting up a fancy lure of yours on a rock or something. Like I remember, so I got a couple of walk the dogs from Rabska, and those things are awesome. And one fall, Barry and I were chucking it, and Barry had just caught a fish on this one. He's like, "Hey, you got that like 8.5-inch Rapska? Can I throw that thing?" I'm like, "Sure, dude, whatever." So he catches this really nice fish, like, just a fat, like 38 and a half, 39 incher. Like literally we're hitting the next spot. And he just like sends it, sails it, smokes it right on a rock. I'm just like, Jesus, dude, like, like those things are not cheap. Fortunately, Josh does an excellent job with his epoxy because you couldn't even tell he hit it on a rock. Like there was more damage from the fish eating that thing than him smoking it on a rock. So I guess disaster avoided on that front. But I understand why at times you may not want clients throwing expensive lures.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you. So you haven't fished a ton of different waters. I suppose I should apologize for throwing Barry under the bus on that one. He's a really good stick, and I love fishing with him. But that was just a really funny moment that like I'll just never let him live it down. But you fish a ton of northern Wisconsin waters. Do you have any thoughts on like northern Wisconsin strain fish and like the profiles that they like, the things that they choose to do versus maybe other places that you fished or other behaviors you've seen from muskies? Because I've got some thoughts on northern Wisco fish and Wisco strain fish based on where I've fished and things that I've seen. But I'm curious from your perspective, like you fish for these stupid things every single day um, during the summer, during the season. Just let me have it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I haven't fished. I've only fished now Iowa and like the Upper Peninsula and Wisconsin. So I don't have Minnesota experience. I've done a little bit on Green Bay, just personal stuff, but um, I would say that our fish up here are educated. So honestly, I mean, it's nothing against the Iowa thing. When we were down in Iowa, I have never seen so many fish on comeback cast and just absolutely going
Well,
crazy.
you were. I mean, it was like that was just the day. That was the day to be out there, and like it was juicy. Fish were fired up, and like that's like where timing comes into it. Our timing was perfect that day. So
Like,
like take that day with a grain of salt because that is not how Iowa usually works.
I I've seen a lot of uneducated Muskies down there, but
Ugh.
no, it's almost like ours are just a little bit more boat shy. Um, you do get, when they're fired up, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to catch it. That's a given. But on your day to day, typical, there's a lot of times they will dart off
Mhm.
and not follow through in the eight,
Oh yeah.
and it's
Oh,
your third
I'm very
turn.
familiar with that.
Yeah, they'll come out of nowhere. All you see is the white mouth in that outside corner, and they smash it. Where you see videos like Ben Stone had that video with that fish just going around and around and around. Our
Yeah, I
fish
was
don't
like
do
I was right next to him when that happened actually.
that.
We're we
Was
were like Connor and I were right close, like 75 yards away from there.
that, that's cool, but yeah, I don't know. It it seems like our fish are just a little bit, I guess I'm gonna say, a little bit smarter than the average, outside of our area kind of thing. It might just be the strain. It might just be because they do see, so many different baits and that kind of. I have no idea, but if we could talk to a muskie for a day, just to know. But
Totally. I think it has a lot to do with the strain, honestly. Like it seems like the Minnesota ones like to hunt more and the Wisconsin ones like to ambush more. And
yeah,
I think part of it because I see that too from the Iowa ones, but the Iowa ones aren't not quite as bad as the northern Wisconsin ones that I've been exposed to. As far as like boat shyness and just like refusing to go in the figure eight. It's almost like at times, you'll have one in northern Wisconsin come in and come into the eight and they're just like, "Whoa, like I shouldn't be out here. Like I need to go back to my weeds. Like I didn't get my thing. I gotta go." And whereas like the Minnesota fish, they're just like, I'm the biggest, baddest thing in here. Nothing, I eat mammals and ducks, so nothing is going to affect me. I'm going to eat this now.
right.
Whereas the Wisconsin ones, they're just like, I don't know, they're just a little bit more spooky. But
And I do think that it matters on what water you're targeting too. If you're in 20
yeah,
foot of water, those fish, if they're suspended, they're gonna eat. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if they're out there doing it, they're doing it.
hmm
Where if if you're fishing weeds, those fish are tucked away. They're not really following. That's just kind of part of the game. I mean, it depends, what part of the lake you're fishing or time of year, that sort of thing as well. But um, yeah, I can't really speak for Minnesota or anything like that. I've never fished there. Just seen the videos and stuff with just crazy boat side stuff. But um, that's what dreams are made of. I know that.
yeah, it definitely gets your knees knocking, and I think water clarity has something to do with it too. Like depending on where you're at in Wisconsin and stuff, like it seems like some of the places that I've fished with more stained water, like if you get out on some of those flowages in northern Wisconsin, they're a little bit more apt to go into the eight and do things by the boat. Whereas like in where our cabin is, like that water's pretty clear and you're looking at like anywhere between 6 and 10 foot of visibility anytime, anywhere you're on the chain. So it's like I would imagine that that water clarity has something to do with it too, and I think too, like, some of those places, they get kind of their own vibe about them, which it's unfortunate for my own learning curve, having the cabin up there because those fish are just so boat shy, like, half the time, there's no reason to even do a figure eight, but then, like, that ended up hurting me in the long run because like, there's places where those fish are much more susceptible in the eight, and yeah, it's a weird thing, and you kind of have to figure out the nuance of the fish that you're trying to target. And like some of those places in northern Wisconsin have had either strains or remnant strains, or they've been stocked and then they've been stopped stocking because they're able to, start producing in that body of water. So then you have like this weird dynamic of like this introduction of fish, but then they took hold and now they're kind of like their own thing. It's just kind of cool. from that perspective, but it makes for a lot more like figuring stuff out as you're fishing, I guess. I don't know if you see that kind of stuff because you got way more lakes over by you than we do by us.
Yeah, and so one thing, bringing up the Clearwater, that is something that I will preach until I'm blue in the face. You gotta have your baits down and in the strike zone for those fish to actually do it. I don't want that fish at the boat. Even it doesn't matter if it's stained water or clear water. I want to hook that. Yeah, it's cool catching them in the figure eight, but I want that fish to eat out on the cast. I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's when you're working the right bait. You're in there. You're right in their face. When they're choking a mid medusa, out on the cast, that's when you got the right presentation. You're doing everything that you should be doing. I try to steer as far away from fish as I can up at the boat. Like if I raise fish and they're shooting right up from underneath the boat, and I mean they look like they want to do it, and then they see the boat and shy up. A lot of times I'll pull the boat a whole cast length off of what I was doing, and then you'll end up sticking one out on the cast. So sometimes it's just a matter of your boat control and where you're at, to where those fish are sitting as well. But definitely staying down deep and even hanging that bait a lot. Versus getting it fired up right up to the boat. But if you hang that bait in that clear water and keep it down that 10 foot or so, a lot of times that'll get you a lot more bites in water. I used to be so scared of fishing clear water when I was younger. It was unbelievable. As hard as I could work to get away from it, I would. I like the dirty stained water and stuff, but the last probably 5 6 years or so, I've really gotten into the clear water, and it doesn't matter if the sun's bright in the sky, you can still bang them out there. So
Yeah, I don't mind clear water. I think again, like where the cabin has hurt me in the past versus where it's helped me, like the clear water thing is where it's definitely helped me because like it's like you don't have a choice. You're going out there, you got like 6 to 10 foot of visibility depending on where you're at. You either figure it out or you don't. And like it's good because it's so strange, like, the Iowa water, the, like, wave that it rides. Because like, when you were down here, the water was pretty clear, right? Like, I don't know what it would have been, like, 6, 8 foot, something like that. I don't really remember, but
yeah, it was definitely, especially, and even like the first lake had a little bit more tint to it, but the second lake was definitely clear as a bell. And
oh, yeah, and that's, like, as clear as I've ever seen that lake, like, you can see that because like, Brian and Ben, when we fished that one, like, that 43 in the release shot, I mean, you can see that fish swim for, like, 50 feet, on the release, and it's just the wave that we ride, which it'll be interesting to see this year what the water looks like because we had such an early ice out this year. Not that like our ice lasts super long anyways, but like in a comparative context, the ice came on a lot later and it went off a lot earlier than normal. So it may not be as clear, which again is not necessarily a bad thing, but the like I was talking, the wave is just kind of weird because you'll have this super clear water in some of our reservoirs, like if especially if we have dry springs like we've had the last couple of years, and then eventually the algae will kind of set in and dirty things up, and then by the fall, once you've had some rains and some runoff and those kinds of things, then it's like you know you're looking at anywhere between a foot and 2 foot of visibility, and then as you get later into the fall and the algae starts to like die off as you've had some colder nights, then it starts to clear up again, and it's just like you got to just ride the wave and get used to it. But like for example, this past fall, the water was definitely a lot dirtier than it was like the previous fall, which I don't know what causes that or anything. And we didn't have all that much more rain or anything like that that would have caused that. Have I thought about cat hair on a bucktail? No, I haven't. But honestly, like Monty's hair is long enough, you could probably tie some of his hair on there, but I don't know how much my wife would appreciate him running around with a bunch of random like bald patches. I think you could use his hair. I think it'd be good. Like he's just like blonde and white. It'd look like a shad or a bait fish, just like anything else. Put some of Waldo's hair in there, it'd be great. Little gray. Waldo doesn't have very long hair though, is the problem. There's something else I was gonna ask you. No, I kind of covered that. Let's see. Do you have like a best guide story? I know we talked about your favorite guide story from last year, like a best guide story, funny guide story, anything like that that would be just fun for people to listen to. Hate to put you on the spot, but
Um, well, there's a bunch of stuff that happens on the boat that's got to stay on the boat, but I I had fun out. This was what 2 years ago. Um, the guy and he was doing everything great. We had a grinder of a day. I mean, it was one of those days that it was just so saucy out. I mean, it was overcast, a little misty. I mean, it's just beautiful out, and we were having a really tough time. We had raised a couple of fish, but nothing really hot on it or nothing, and we ended up jumping lakes, and we're fishing along, and he's actually casting a lee flaptail, and he went to zing it out there and he backlashed and he threw his rod, I would bet you probably 20, 25 feet. And it just, and he looked at me and I've never seen something big in my entire life. Oh man. Good thing, the chaos rods float, but yeah, it was just the look in his eyes. He's like, that feeling you get when you get pulled over on the freeway? He's like, I got that. It was pretty funny.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was picking on him for a little bit,
I had a similar situation with Thatcher from Drop Time in Canada. So I was chucking the Ridgeway, and you know how on the tranks, if the handle of the tranks, because you have that like really dense plastic ball, and if it's in the wrong spot and you like try and zing one, and that handle flips forward, and then it stops the bait, and then it makes your rod jump. Yeah, I never had the rod jump out of my hands before, but it did that day, and it scared the crap out of me. And we were over like 50 foot of water, so I was like scrambling to try and get it or whatever. And it's like if this thing goes down, it's like it's not coming back. Oh
but
man, I felt like such an idiot. That was just it was so ridiculous. Oh man.
yeah, that's instance where I actually had 2 or 3 rods go overboard at the same time. That was pretty wild. Uh,
Oh boy.
so like it had to be a 41, 42 incher, and father son. The son was 18, 19. Um, but the dad had ended up hooking into this fish, and we get it in the net. He didn't really want to hold it after seeing it thrash around the net and whatnot. So I said, well, I'll hold it for you. If you want your whatever, just you kind of watch for the fish and whatnot. But I grabbed it and we took a picture, and I put it back in the net, and I just said, hey, this isn't really my memory. Do you want to try this? And his son was like, well, yeah, I'll do it. And I showed him, this is how you hold them. Put your thumb in there, tight, that sort of thing, and make sure you down so that if the fish does popcorn or whatever, you can throw it out the boat or it doesn't fall as far if it does, which is worst case scenario. And of course, that's what happened. But um, kid, the kid went to hold the fish up, and I always set my phone to video just in case you get
Mhm.
whatever you get, and then you take snapshots out of that way you can be quicker with the fish and whatnot. But um, yeah, the fish ended up dumping onto the floor, and it's flopping all over the place, which is not the best thing. Um, I actually dove to try to grab the fish. Well, the fish got underneath. I always keep the rods off, on the other side of the boat from where we fish, and the fish got into that whole pile of
Oh
of
god.
rods, and it's flopping, and there's like rods overboard. There's hooks in every. I dove on the fish, and just dumped it over the side. Like get out of here kind of thing. I looked at some glider stuck in my kneecap. I'm stuck to the floor with that, and I let the fish go, and the kid he dives in. He's grabbing the rods out of the water. It was just complete no reason. So I will never say, hey, would you like to hold this if you don't want to, whatever. So I definitely would shy away from doing that. If it's not comfortable,
Oh
don't ask,
man.
just let
Um
it be what it.
you touch on a good point there though, Taylor. Like, how do you gauge like handling the fish, safely handling the fish? Is that something that you kind of leave up to the client? Do you show the client how to hold them and hope for the best? Like, I've been tagged by a few of them. It's not pretty when it happens. It's not like it's a common thing. Like, I've gotten hit pretty hard by a couple of them, but I mean, you're talking like I've handled probably over 200 fish, and two of them got me really good, which that percentage is solid for me. But again, it still happens. So like, how do you handle that scenario?
So definitely anything to do with the hooks. If the fish is in the net, I always do hook out stuff. Whether we got to cut hooks or if they're hung high, we get them taken care of right away. But I am always the one digging in the net with the hooks in the net. Get the fish free sitting in the net. Where they're it's all good. Get the hooks away from the net because people just aren't really aware of what they got going on. They're so jazzed up, the adrenaline and everything. They don't really think of that hook is going to get in my arm kind of thing. But get everything clear, put the rods away. Fish is chilling, it's fine. And then I go through if I don't do a lot of like bump board stuff measurements. Usually I can tell you if a 38-inch fish is a 38 incher or not. If you get a upper 40s, that sort of thing, yeah, I'll put them on a board just to see. If somebody catches a first muskie or a personal best, that sort of thing, yeah, I'm all for it. But I feel like more fish get hurt, flopping around when you set them on the board. They're
Hmm.
always flopping. That's when you get a lot of injured fish. So, I try to shy away from that as much as possible. But if they would like a measurement, I um, I always tell them before the fish is out of the water. I say, I'm going to grab the fish. I'm going to lay it on the board. We'll get a measurement. And then I will have my hand in the gill. Take your hand and slide it right over top of my hand and place your
Oh, that's a
thumb
good idea.
right. That way they get it in so they're not getting, in between the gills or messing up the gills or hurting themselves as well. That's what will really get you is, the gill rake stuff. But so that's kind of the process that I do, and always keep them low to the boat just in case if one does popcorn, or basically tell them ahead of time what could happen, what to do if it does happen. Say, one popcorns or whatever, just throw the fish, get it out of the boat, let it land in the water. That's more important than it hitting its head, that sort of thing. But um, some people are just not comfortable holding a fish, that size, especially after they see it thrashing around in the net, and then they see my knuckles are bleeding, and that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
uh, it just kind of turns them off to it. They're like, well, I'm just not really ready to catch a 32 incher or something, so that they can, get what it is before they handle a big one. Um, if they're not comfortable with it, don't push the issue. You learn that, but it's better even to not get a picture of fish than for that fish to get
Hmm.
thrown out. Definitely something to think about. I mean, everybody wants the social media shot and all. If the fish is life or not, you better off just put the fish back in the water. So
Yeah, there's definitely times too, where I've handled that situation, not necessarily with clients, but like friends that I have in the boat, and like, so like for example, this fall I had one of my college buddies. Like, this dude he's netted several of my fish for me. He's been in the boat a bunch with me, and he finally got his first one with me this fall, which was awesome. And I was like not sure it was gonna happen that day because he was like 0 for 2 going into catching that fish, and then he ended up, I think, losing another one. But like, all of them were kind of in that mid 30s or whatever. The first one that he lost, I think, was the best one. It would have been pushing close to 40. But anyway, my point being is we finally got the one in the net, and I just kind of told him like, dude, I'm just gonna hold this fish for you. We'll get video, we'll get stills, all the things. But I think that's just best because like he loves fishing, but he doesn't do it nearly as much as I think he would like, and just like his overall familiarity with fishing, let alone muskies, is lower. And it's like we don't need an ER visit today. I've done that, been there, done that. It's not very much fun. Um, I had it happen this fall. So yeah, it's just one of those deals. Although I will say, in my defense, when it happened this fall, it was one of those things where I thought. So what happened was bucktail fish. I thought that the so I it was on the front hook, and it just was like beak hook. So I like did the quick little thing to get it unhung from the net. I thought that the hook was out or whatever, so I just, cleared the bait. And I go to pull up the fish for a picture, and I noticed that the hook didn't come out, that it broke. And I don't know how. I mean, I'd caught several fish on that hook, that bait before that one. And yeah, so the existential dread set in really fast. And instead of just like throwing the fish thinking like, "Hey, it'll be fine," because, like, that hook will end up sliding out, like, there's nothing keeping that hook in there. I tried to, like, put it back in the net, and then when I tried to put it in the net, it freaked out, and inevitably, the hook was what got me worse, I think, than any teeth. I mean, the teeth got me too, but I think it was the hook that cut me the worst. So, what do you do? Musky
Right.
fishing. Stitches.
Yeah. I know I got a hellhound stuck in my. I don't know if you can even see it on. Yeah, you won't be able to see it on there, but um, I got scars on my probably like a 42, 43 incher. Um, I went in to grab it or whatnot, and it started thrashing, and I ended up catching one hook in the top of the hand. Just went nuts, and it was thrashing around. It actually ripped that hook out and put the other
Oof,
one in. The fish was
oof.
still attached. That was not good. So I'm very careful with long pliers, and I'm pretty careful when it comes to fishing in that. But um,
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem just, like, letting them cool off for a second, and then we'll go back after once they chill out, 'cause they're way stronger. Like, it'll never cease to amaze me how strong those fish are. Even, like, your mid-30s fish, like, yeah, if you're not being careful with them. Um, shoot, what was I gonna say? But yeah, I think that that's a really good point in terms of also that sucks about your finger. Yeah, being hooked to a fish and hooked to a bait is not fun. Um, yeah, that's a pretty wild thing that I don't think many people would really like to be a part of. So Taylor, where can people find you in the near future? Because like part of the reason we're going to get on here was for you to kind of preview where people can find you if they wanted to potentially book a date. Um, hit me up with some booking info, where they can find you, socials, shows, all the things.
well, we're already pretty much run through our shows. I will be at the Wisconsin Muskie Expo in Wausau, 15th, 16th, and 17th of March. I'll be doing a seminar on like auto chart and boat control and kind of how I use auto chart to um, pick out which lake I'm going to fish or by wind direction or where it's pushing forage into that sort of thing. Uh, that'll be Friday at like 3 o'clock. I think I'm leading off that show, but then I'll be in the chaos booth with those guys all weekend, talking muskies, helping people out. That'll be a fun time. I absolutely love. Everybody stops by, tells you their stories, and it's a great environment up there. But definitely should make your way up here, at some point to see that show. It's incredible. But otherwise, I do a lot of my stuff on like Facebook. It's Musky Guarantee Guide Service or LLC. That's my page there, and then I do have a website, but I don't get on that hardly at all. I think I threw like 30 pictures on there or something. How many years ago, but yeah, that's www.muskyguaranteeguideservice.com. And then otherwise, my cell, I'm calls or text or whatever, I always get back right away. But it's 715-490-5088. Otherwise, I am on TikTok too, but that's kind of a weird deal. I haven't quite figured that out yet. So, uh,
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok anymore. I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough to spread your time amongst all the platforms. You kind of just I don't know. Unless I was doing it full time, it would be like different, but not doing it full time, it's like you just got to pick a couple and just dedicate your efforts to those. Um,
I
yeah.
get upset. I'd get upset with TikTok because I would post a video that I spent a lot of time on, and I thought it was an awesome video. A cool, boat side eat or something like that, big fish, whatever, and it gets like 30 views, and then you post one of a fish coming up on a topwater and just tapping it, and you get like 60,000 views. It's like, well, that wasn't even a cool video. I don't get the
Yeah, that's part of why I don't really mess with TikTok all that much anymore. I I think, like, the Instagram Reels personally is at least more fair to my content for the most part than most of them. You know, I post a lot of YouTube Shorts, but, like, again, that's just, like, just trying to gain traction in any way, shape, or form, but it's tough to break through all the noise, not that my stuff is necessarily better than anyone else's, because it's not, but just, like, I think that there's worthwhile information that people would find valuable, so I'm just trying to spread it, I guess. That's why I started doing the lives. I think that this is a really unique way to kind of give some insight to, musky fishing and fishing in general. Maybe be a little bit more personable with some of what we do. I don't know, and show the face behind the camera a little bit. Yeah, Brady, uh, being hooked to a 46 would not be fun at
I,
all. And knowing where you fish, that fish is probably pushing like it's probably between 25 and 30 pounds. So like that sounds not very much fun. Boy, that that like gives me anxiety just thinking about that. I'll have to check it out. My phone's on do not disturb right now because like if it vibrates too much, then I'm scared it'll like vibrate if I get text and it'll like vibrate off of my like little stand guy that I've got it on right now. My fancy stand that's like my meat eater trivia and like random light that Callie just ordered. So so you're not like looking up my nose. Yes, Taylor, the Wausau show, I would love to go there sometime. Unfortunately, this year we've just had some pretty serious family stuff come about as of late, so getting up there is probably not going to happen this year. I'm hoping that it won't affect any of my fishing plans in March that I've made thus far. I don't think that it will, but we'll just have to see. It's been a long couple of weeks, and doing some of the lives has kind of helped restore a sense of normalcy to what has been pretty chaotic over the last few weeks. So yeah. Well, Taylor, I think we're like over an hour now. So thank you. I want to say thanks for coming on. If people want to book a trip with you up in northern Wisconsin, I could not recommend a better dude to do it with. Their Musky guarantee has come through every time for me, even if it's a 28 incher sometimes. So we had a shot at another one that day. It just didn't work out. It's fine. Um, but no, I gotta give Taylor a hard time because just off the cuff, he invited me over to fish with him, and we had like a 2 fish day in like the dead heat of flat, calm bluebird skies. So
yeah,
again, it's just one of those things. That was a fun day. I'll never forget that. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, no, thank you, Taylor, for coming on. I am very much looking forward to getting in the boat with you here very soon. It will be a blast. Hopefully, the fish will cooperate. If not, it'll be a ton of fun regardless. The the Eastern Iowa outpost is set up now, so hopefully we'll get on some fish that way. We got more lakes that we can explore over here now, and we're not like shoehorned into just like central Iowa anymore. It's great. We could
I'm
even
looking.
we could even go to Illinois if we wanted to, or Missouri. I mean, we could have went to Missouri before, but like, yeah, I mean, we got so many more options now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I like an adventure. I'm all about it.
There's a couple I've got in mind. We'll chat more about them as the time gets closer. So anyway, thanks a bunch for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. Good luck this season. I don't know. If you got anything else that you want to say, feel free. Otherwise, we'll wrap this guy and call her good on a Thursday night.
No, that's all I got. I appreciate you on. It's fun talking Muskies again. Looking
Heck
forward to
yeah,
the spring.
dude. Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks a bunch for coming on. We'll catch you later. Thank you everyone for tuning in. There's been a bunch of you have been commenting and watching, so thank you a bunch for checking it out. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.